I'm D. Watkins here with Salon TV, and today I'm joined by Alice Marie Johnson, author of Afterlife, My Journey from Incarceration to Freedom. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Yesterday was my book launch.
Congratulations.
Thank you
so
much.
How does it feel?
Oh, it feels beautiful. That's the only way that I can describe it, more so than wonderful. It's marvelous, it's amazing. It's something that has been a dream come true to be able to be a published author. Now, not just a published author, but someone that can maybe possibly make an impact in society.
Yeah. So my fiance and I, we spent the week studying the book and having a whole lot of deep conversations about it. You have a beautiful journey. As all of us who've been following the story know, you've recently been released from prison. What did you do on your first day? What was the first thing you did as soon as you walked out?
As soon as I walked out, of course, you saw me running into the arms of my family. When I arrived home, where the big tribe of my family was waiting on me, they had prepared a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, delicious dinner for me.
The best meal you ever had?
The best meal I've ever had. It seemed like every flavor was intensified. One of the best things was getting a plate and not being served off of a tray.
It's the simple stuff.
Just simple stuff, picking up a fork, a real fork, not a plastic fork. And I was taking my time eating and just drinking my family in. And we'd always planned that I go to my brother's house. And you probably saw in the book, the first thing I did when I arrived at my brother's house was open the refrigerator. I hadn't been allowed to open a refrigerator in a house for almost 22 years. And when I saw that big bed, wow, that bed was the most marvelous thing of all. Was not being in a twin bed, sleeping on a comfortable mattress. I jumped in that bed and I was kicking my legs like a little child, rolling over in the bed. It felt good to get a good night's sleep without a bunk over my head.
So we're not going to give away the whole story because we need people to go out and buy this book. It's amazing. But I do want to talk about your experience. So we know that Kim Kardashian West didn't just call your warden one day and say, hey, let Alice out. We know there was like a process that led up to that and her getting involved. Could you walk us through that?
Yes. I did a video op-ed with Mike.com. That video went viral the first day. Someone who Kim follows tweeted it out to her. She said that she had not been on her phone in days, and when she turned her phone on, my face popped up. And from the time she started listening to my story, and it was under 4 minutes, that short video was a catalyst for what took place with me. She tweeted out after hearing my story, this is so unfair. But one thing that I want to say, and I have to say this and give Kim her props on this. Many, many people saw that video. In fact, it was viewed by about 10 million people. But Kim didn't just say that this is so unfair. She took action. She contacted her attorney. They put together a legal team. She put her money in it. She put her time in it. She put her heart into my case.
She's a revolutionary in her own right now.
Yes, she is.
Because of fighting like that for you.
Yes.
And you have a history of being a revolutionary.
Oh, yes.
You probably got that from your mom.
For sure.
Your mom was in the NAACP. And talk about how you got to FedEx and the grievance you fought with them and how you helped change that company.
Yes, I started with FedEx, and I was in a department, and I saw that you had opportunities to move up in this department, and I saw a pattern of discrimination against women, against people of color, like myself, and we were not in line the way that others were for those promotions, even though our work was at the better standards. We have to work hard, harder.
20 times as hard to get some of the same things. Yes, we have to work
even harder. So I had a very good record. I was bringing it. I was really doing it. I was collecting, because I was in revenue recovery. I was topping the charts. And every time I'd apply for the next level of promotion, I was turned down. And I started researching because it didn't make any sense. People who had less, not as good records as the women and the people of color, they were being promoted. And so I fought for them, and I won. And in fairness to them, they listened to me. And they saw that what I presented to them was absolutely correct.
What did that victory feel like?
Oh, it felt so good. But as a child, I used to listen to my mother and the things that she talked about and her involvement in the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where those seeds were planted in me of activism for myself. And that's not to sit back and just let things take place that you know are wrong, to do something.
Yeah. Two of the big themes in the book that kept sticking out to me was different things that you went through with your relationships with men, mm-hmm. and then faith in the different ways it kept reoccurring in your life as just this driving force to push you in the right direction. So like you knew when you were doing something that wasn't right and you identified that. That's another thing I appreciate about the book a lot is that it's not a woe is me story. It's like this is a real story. I'm a real person who had real struggles, but talk about your relationships with men and then try to bridge that with faith.
Okay. I got married, as you know in the book, at 15 years old. I was a pregnant teenage mother and bride. Mm-hmm. That relationship was not a very good relationship. Both me and my husband were way too young. He was older than me, but we still were too young.
Kids?
Yeah, we were kids. But having grown up with parents who loved each other so much, mm-hmm. they were married 64 years. I mean, that's how long they would have been married. They would have been married longer than that if they were still alive. But I thought that that's what a relationship looked like. And I think I kept trying to find someone who would treat me the way that my father treated my mother. Mm-hmm. That never happened. Mm. I didn't have a good relationship, a good marriage, a good stable marriage, but I still wanted a strong family and stability for my children because that's how I grew up. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen, and I would feel, and it's something about when you are not so much physically abused, but you go through what I know now is mental abuse, mm-hmm. and that can be much worse than the physical because the physical scars heal. But when someone tells you bad things about yourself and you trying to prove yourself, I just wanted to be accepted, I think, and be validated by a man, by someone. Since I didn't get that from my husband, I made bad decisions in my relationship. And not having that time of how girls mature and they date and they experience mm-hmm. life and experience relationships. I didn't have that. So I did make some bad choices in my life.
And that's what led to you eventually becoming incarcerated?
Yes, it did. That bad choice led to, I want to make this clear, I'm not blaming the person that I was involved with mm-hmm. in this relationship because I still had the ability to say no. Mm-hmm. But I did. It was at a bad time in my life. I'd lost my job. I had bills coming in that were driving me crazy. I got another job eventually as a factory worker, but by that time that I did get the job, I'm divorced now. I've got 5 children. I'm getting zero support from my ex-husband.
And then you had your business growing too.
Yes, the business hadn't started yet.
Okay.
It hadn't started yet, but I've got things that are going on in my life that are out of control. All of a sudden, the control that I felt that I had of my life was just stripped. I don't know what to do. And when an offer came for me to be involved in a drug conspiracy, I really didn't know what that looked like. Thinking back on that, I don't even recognize myself that I would even nod my head or move my lips to say, okay, I'll pass messages. I'll be a telephone mule in this.
And you make that very clear in the book. So one thing I think that like people really need to understand is what was your role versus what the system tried to say your role was? Because I think people get it twisted. Like, you know, you have a person like you, a God-fearing woman with a beautiful soul, caught up in a situation. Like, we've all been caught up in situations before, but then when you get to court, you're painted as this person who has done all of these things that's beyond all of our imaginations.
That whole thing is crazy. It's crazy how the system will, I can almost say, they write a fairy tale almost about you.
They should be putting books out.
They should be putting books out. If you don't agree to cooperate, if you don't plead guilty, I think it's almost like notches in the belt. We brought the big fish in. And as I said in my book, if I was a queen pin in this operation, I was the worst one that I've ever heard of. I still was not, I didn't have a paid for house. I didn't have a paid for car. My house payment was $900 and $900 a month. And a lot of times I struggled to even pay that. Others had cars seized. They couldn't even get a bond. I was on bond for 2 years. They could not even get a bond, and they knew. But the picture is painted as some huge drug operation that just was not true. Even the estimated, they use this word estimated, they put that in front, and they come up with a number of what we call ghost dope. That's dope, that's drugs that they didn't even have a record of. They didn't seize these drugs. They come up with this money figure.
So potentially what you're saying is that there are 800 pounds of ghost dope sitting on this table right now.
Oh, yeah, we got ghost dope right here.
We got ghost dope for days.
Yeah, I just said, D, you brought drugs to my house. And the crazy thing is, their main witness in my case, he said that he had brought drugs to my home 20 times. I looked at him and I thought, you don't even know where I live. So I put a map up at my trial of the city.
It blew my mind when you wrote about how he kept going to the map and was like, she's right here. And everyone's laughing like, no. And he's like, I'm sorry, she's right here. And they're like, that's not right either.
And he took them, by the time he finished, at one point he had taken them over the Mississippi-Arkansas bridge. I lived in a totally different direction, D. It was absolutely ridiculous. But this is their star witness, and this is where they mainly get the drugs attributed to myself.
But how do people see something so bad and so phony and still come up with the conclusion?
It's what is called conspiracy. In conspiracy, whatever takes place with one person in this conspiracy, you're attributed for every single act.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they can clearly see that he doesn't know what he's talking about, how can the jury look at you and say guilty? That's crazy.
The jury was laughing. In fact, all of this is in the transcripts. This is not me making this up.
Right.
It's in the transcript. And the jury was laughing, so the judge had to get order back into the court. And at the very end, I was convicted by not a 12-person jury, but an 11-person jury on Halloween. They started rushing to get to a decision after a 6-week trial because they were told they were going to be sequestered. And it seems like they were more interested in getting back home so that their children could trick or treat than my very life is on the line.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's crazy, but it's true.
So think about your time behind the wall and how many stories you heard about people who have just been used and misrepresented and taken advantage of by crooked cops, crooked judges, evil prosecutors, in this system that we all pay into with our own tax money. We all pay into it. And these people who can look at a case like yours and see that clearly, okay, this is what she said, this is what happened, this is what they're trying to build, but you see all of these people who are just making up stuff, clearly making up stuff, and yet allow it to function.
It's crazy. I did do wrong. I'm not trying to say that I went to prison because I was a Sunday school teacher, but it did not warrant that kind of time. A life without parole plus 25 years for being a information mule. A telephone mule is what it's called.
So you're not touching nothing. You're not going out and doing anything.
I don't have any boats,
with your hands.
planes,
You're just
or
on
anything
the phone.
else. I'm on the phone. But even the people involved in my case who went to trial, that amount of drugs just did not exist. And the ones who ended up doing time for this, it was unfair to them also. Now, I'm not the only victim of my case. Most of the time, the people that I was in prison with, they took pleas because they're terrified.
They're terrified.
They're terrified.
The federal government is scary. Like
it
their
is
closure
very,
rate
very
is in
scary.
the 90, you know, like
Yes.
90-some%. They
Most of
almost
the people
never
take a plea.
lose.
They don't. They don't because of this conspiracy theory of how easy it is to be convicted of a conspiracy. So they're afraid to go to trial.
Easier if you're black.
Oh, for sure. Much easier if you're black.
But you're not taking your release lightly. You've become an advocate, and you've become a person who has been fighting to change these systems. Talk about some of the things you've been up to.
Ever since I came home, I have been speaking on different platforms. I've been trying to educate the public of how many other people are just like me. My case is not unique. There are many others who deserve the same second chance that I was given. So I don't want them to look at that I'm an oddity. I'm someone who's just caught up. Many people are caught up in this. I call it not the justice system, but the injustice system. There are many who are caught up in this system. I'm not saying that the people who work, the people who do these, our judges, our prosecutors, I'm not saying this is the dirty cop thing. I'm saying that the laws are wrong, that something has to change. And my coming out has put a face on the need for criminal justice reform. It's impacted people when they hear my story, when they see my face. Families, there are too many families that have other family members. And like you yourself, Dee, you say you have a close friend who's serving a long sentence.
My best friend, Tavon Robinson, is doing 27 years for nonviolent crimes.
This is crazy. This is crazy. How do you sleep at night? People claim that you're making your street safer. How are you making the street safer? For me, I was supposed to draw my last dying breath in prison. I didn't pose a risk to society. Of course, I had a debt to pay for committing a crime, but should it have been life? Absolutely not. The time did not fit the crime. You have too many people who are in the same situation, and if the eyes are not open to the public, it's going to continue the same unless something changes, unless more stories like mine are being told. It's not going to change.
Could you do this work if you would have took the 3 to 5 over trying to go to court and fight it? You feel like you could have like the same energy to fight for reform if you would have took that 3 to 5 they initially offered in the camp?
I think that I would not have had this level because before I only heard about it and I didn't understand it. But when you go and sit among the people, I've lived it with them, and now I know. And once you know something is wrong, to turn your back and act as if it's okay, then I'm wrong.
I only ask you that because you're a woman of faith, and it seems like God wouldn't put you through this if you weren't strong enough to handle it and be able to take these lessons and go deliver a greater message to the people.
I paid it. You know how they say you bought it?
Yeah.
I paid for this. I paid for this message. I bought it and I paid for it with 21 years, 7 months, and 6 days of my life. And so I won't forget about the people who have been left behind, both women and men. I won't stop fighting. I won't until change takes place. This is a movement, and this movement is not going to stop.
So we're not going to get all into politics, but I do want to say, I want you to speak to the voter being able to vote after you re-enter society. I think you should be able to vote while you're incarcerated because you're still citizens. But
I truly believe that when you have completed your time and they call us returning citizens, how can you be a returning citizen if you can't even vote? If you say that you're returning, have a good life, that you're an American citizen, yet one of the things that make us citizens is that we can choose government. So how in the world can you not have that?
You should be able to vote while you're even still inside. Because, and I'm going to say this because I went and saw Lisa Jesse Peterson's play A Peculiar Patriot, and she basically had a section when she talked about how these present towns, they are able to benefit from having incarcerated people
They
because
count them as
they can
citizens.
can add them to their census.
That is so true.
So they can get more money from the federal government, which we all pay into. So not only are you able to have this jail and to be able to create this economy for the people who come to visit their family members, but you also get extra money because you can count them on your census. So it's like, if you're using us, then we should have the ability to be for political representation.
Wow, you know, that's a good thought, D.
It's a good one-woman show. You should check it out.
Yeah,
you know.
I'm going to definitely check it out. But I definitely 100% believe that when you're released from prison, you've done your time, that it's time to really and truly welcome them home and restore their rights.
Yeah, so I'm so happy that you was able to come in today. I want you to look directly into that camera and tell everyone where they can get this amazing, beautiful book.
You can get this book. They're in bookstores now. You can also order them on Amazon, on the HarperCollins website, but the books are everywhere. I've seen for myself that they are in the bookstores, but for sure you can find them on Amazon, HarperCollins website, Barnes & Noble's website.
Everywhere books are sold.
Everywhere books are sold. So that keeps me from shouting so much out for a particular company. But everywhere books are sold, you don't want to miss this book. It is a true story. It is a good read. It is a page turner. And I hope that you'll reach back out to me. Check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Alice Marie Free, and let me know how much you enjoyed my new book.